What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another ranking of the top 10 teams in the NFL. In this video, I will break down my top 10 teams in the NFL, the elite of the NFL after week number 10, going into week number 11. Before I give you my top 10, make sure that you do Gronk Spike the like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this. Also, comment your opinion. I want to hear from you guys. What's your top 10? Who do you have in the top 5? Who are your elite 3? Who's the best team right now in the NFL? I found that challenging to rank this week. This week overall, I think it's a very intriguing top 10, so I want to hear from you guys. Who is in your elite 10? All right, let's kick off my top 10 with my number 10 team in the NFL going into week 11. That is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are a team that is all offense and no defense, and that was proven by their performance versus the Tennessee Titans, if you didn't already think that. Their defense was awful. Ryan Tannehill, he dominated. He passed his way to a comeback victory over the Chiefs. Their running game was explosive with Derrick Henry. And we're talking about a Titans offense that's about as average as it gets. The Chiefs had no answers despite Mahomes looking like Patrick Mahomes, despite looking like the MVP from last season, despite throwing for over 400 yards, multiple touchdown game, Tyreek Hill having a magical performance. That's all forgotten when your defense cannot stop the run, cannot stop the pass, and cannot stop the other team. Now, I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs need to figure out a way to manage their team better. And I think this falls on Andy Reid, personally. I think Andy Reid needs to figure out how to maximize the talent and figure out this team, okay? Because offensively, you're going to score. But what I don't see from their offense is the thought process that you know you're going to score, but let's help our defense. I don't see this team working as one cohesive unit. I don't see the offense managing the clock, managing the game, and winning the game by keeping the opposing offense off of the field, putting that offense in a worse position. The Chiefs just try and score as fast as they can. And I understand that if you had a better defense, it would be no problem. But you don't, Andy Reid. You need to change something. And I believe it all starts with the time management. Managing your football team is about as important as scheming, game planning. The in-game management is crucial, and I think Andy Reid needs to figure out a way to keep his offense on the field longer, because if Patrick Mahomes is on the field more than the other team's quarterback or offense, more than likely the Chiefs are going to win. So at number 10, I have the Chiefs. I'm worried about their defense, but with that offense, as explosive as it is, I believe they can still beat anybody in the NFL in a given week. At number 9, I have the Houston Texans. The Texans are all about one man and one man only. Some people believe he's the MVP, and that is Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has been getting a ton of credit, and obviously he should. He's an absolute stud. He is, as John Gruden put it, Michael Jordan-esque. So Deshaun Watson, whether it's running, passing, buying time behind a weak offensive line, finding his receivers down the field, extending a play by ripping a defensive lineman off of him and throwing a dart in the end zone. Deshaun Watson can do it all. And certainly, if you have a guy playing at this level, elite conversation type of MVP level, you're going to be one of the better teams in the league. But to me, the Texans are not in that elite conversation because I'm still concerned about their defensive backs. I'm still concerned when they do eventually go up against a top quarterback, how are they going to look? And I understand that, and I want to give credit to Bill O'Brien, because Bill O'Brien is doing something that I just mentioned Andy Reid is not doing. He's doing a better job of managing his football team. He's doing a better job of keeping his offense on the field. Whether that's through game planning, whether that's through the play calling process, the Texans understand that their defense isn't the greatest in the world, but they do have key areas where they're pretty good. They're good at stopping the run, and they're big, and their scheme isn't bad with Romeo Crennel defensively, but offensively, if Deshaun Watson's on the field longer than your quarterback, your offense, you're more likely to win. And that's exactly how they beat the Chiefs. So Bill O'Brien's doing a better job of managing his team and understanding that his defense isn't fantastic, especially without J.J. Watt now. The Texans are going to have to continue to do that, and that was one of the keys of their big-time blowout victory over the Jags in London. I'm looking forward to see the Texans versus some better opponents down the stretch. I want to see if they can really contend with teams like the Patriots in the AFC. We'll have to see. Deshaun Watson gives them a chance, but I'm just a little concerned about that defense. At number 8, some people will get angry at me because the Dallas Cowboys, they are 5-4. They actually have a worse record than the Houston Texans, so you could definitely argue that the Texans are the better football team at this point, but to me, the Cowboys have lost to some good teams. I mean, they lost to the Packers. They lost to the Vikings. They lost to the Saints. That's 3 of their 4 losses. I understand they had a Jets debacle, and teams will have that type of loss here and there, but Saints, Packers, Vikings, all of those teams are higher on this list than the Cowboys, and they are good football teams in the NFC, a strong conference. When I really look at the Cowboys, again, I say it every week, super talented, amongst the most talented team in the NFL. Dak Prescott's having his best season of his career, in my opinion. Better than 2016, better than last season. He's playing like a baller. He's playing like a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. I need to see more out of Ezekiel Elliott. That's the guy who needs to step up. That's the guy, if the Cowboys are going to take that next step in the NFC, they need Zeke to go back to Zeke form, because I'm not seeing that same explosion out of Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not seeing that game-breaking ability. You saw Dalvin Cook, compare him to Zeke. They just played each other. Who was the better guy in that game? It wasn't very close. It was definitely Cook. Their defense let them down versus the Vikings on Sunday Night Football. They need to change some things. They can't be so simplistic and just let the talent do things. They need to actually come in with a game plan specific every week. I think they're a little too simple. With that talent, there's no excuse to not add a couple wrinkles here and there throughout your game planning process. Shout out to Amari Cooper, who is continuing to ball out. So at number 8, I have the Dallas Cowboys. At number 7, the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, they are dwindling a little bit. They are falling down my rankings, and as a thought process through the NFC, I feel like they are a good team, but I don't feel like they are an elite team. Yes, they have Aaron Rodgers. Yes, Matt LaFleur has brought an offense with Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams that's explosive, that's fun to watch, but defensively, they're becoming suspect to me. Now, they made some nice plays versus the Panthers, but they also allowed far too many plays in the snow at home versus Kyle Allen, a guy who was constantly throwing ducks down the field. They couldn't take advantage. Their run defense is suspect, and to me, their offense does get a little one-dimensional at times in terms of it's Devontae Adams or it's Aaron Jones. They need someone else to step up, and I don't know if they have that player. And offensive line-wise has not been as great as it was early in the season. I want to see better play out of guys like David Bakhtiari, who's an elite left tackle. Didn't have his greatest game versus Carolina. Rodgers didn't have his greatest game versus Carolina. Now, they did come out with the win, but I think it's essential that the Packers do find a way to win this division and get games at home in the playoffs, because if they're having to travel on the road, they're a lot better at home. Packers at number 7. At number 6, Seattle Seahawks. I don't know what it is with the Seahawks. It's just the Seahawks. It's Pete Carroll. It's Russell Wilson. This team is not better than the teams in terms of talent that are listed below them. They really aren't, but it's the way that certain players are performing, like Russell Wilson, who's the MVP. They've really been able to add some players to this roster, whether that's through the offseason, through the middle of the season, just picking up players like Josh Gordon, Jadeveon Clowney. You have Diggs, Hollister at tight end. I mean, these guys all paid off versus the 49ers. They all played great games. Jadeveon Clowney was unfriggin' believable. The pass rush is starting to come together for the Seahawks as we kind of thought it would, bringing back Reed from suspension. You know, Ezekiel Ansah is getting a little bit healthier, and of course Clowney's getting in more game shape after not really having an offseason. So this pass rush is getting better, which will help the secondary. I do feel like that secondary played one of their better games versus the 49ers. But Wilson, if he continues to play at this MVP level with Tyler Lockett, Metcalf, Carson, and now Josh Gordon, and even Hollister in the mix, this offense is explosive. They can score points, and they're going to put pressure on you. If that defense can just continue to find a way to make enough plays, they're in the conversation in every game they play, and that's thanks to great quarterback play. That's thanks to great situation coaching from Pete Carroll. They're a good team, and they're going to be in every game they play. I just don't think they're an elite team at number 6. At number 5, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Vikings are a team that, yes, they're ranked higher than the Green Bay Packers, and Packers fans will be sitting there saying, whoa, Mitch! I mean, bro, the Packers beat them. How can the Vikings be higher? Well, they're a strange team, the Vikings. They're not really good versus their division for whatever reason, but they find a way versus other teams in the league. They lost to the Packers. They lost to the Bears, but they've found ways, and I believe in the playoffs, they're built better than the Packers to make a run. Dalvin Cook, it might be the best running back in the game. I understand a lot of hype for McCaffrey, but man, Dalvin Cook's been special as well. He's playing amazing in the passing game, running game, power, speed, explosion. There is no running back, in my opinion, with a better pair of strength, power, and speed. And then you have the defense, which isn't fantastic. It's not 2016 Vikings defense, but it's still solid. And they make plays, pass rushing, especially at home where they're dominant in that regard. Offensive scheme is a lot better than last year. I have to credit what they've done offensively. Kirk Cousins is playing good, maybe the best season of his career. The play action's working out. And guys, they beat the Cowboys without Adam Thielen. I thought they weren't going to be able to move the ball, but the scheme, the improved offensive line play, Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs, Kirk Cousins, finding ways to make plays versus a good football team in the Cowboys. The Vikings are a team that's continuing to impress me, and I'm moving them up in my rankings as the weeks go on. At number 4, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, I have a little bit of a concern about their offense. Now, the Saints, the same concerns that were popping up last season are starting to show. They have no deep passing attack. Drew Brees realizes that he does not have the same amount of arm strength. He does not have a downfield threat, really. I mean, Michael Thomas is fantastic, but he's the best possession receiver in football. He's not a downfield threat, and they're missing that. And they're missing the zip on the football from Drew Brees. They're undefeated with Teddy Bridgewater. They're 2-2 with Drew Brees. Is Drew Brees really still an elite quarterback? I would say no. Defensively, I think they're good. I think they had a bad performance. Their offensive line didn't look as great without Andrus Peat in the lineup. They were dominated versus Atlanta in the fourth quarter. They play some interesting games going forward versus some good opponents. I'm really excited for the 49ers game. We'll have to see how they match up in that one, and that could maybe tell us a little bit more about how the Saints fit in the playoffs in the NFC. At number 3, I have the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens might be number 1 for a lot of people, and that's completely fine, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. But again, this team does have 2 losses, and the 2 teams that I have above them only have 1. They had a very impressive, dominant victory over the Patriots, and I feel like a lot of people are instantly crowning them because of that. They also just dominated the Bengals, and Lamar Jackson is starting to become this pop culture phenom, really, kind of like in the Michael Vick fold of things, where he is just so good that he's kind of making the team a little bit overhyped and maybe a little bit overrated. But this team is really good. There's no doubt about it. They have a great offensive line. They can run the football very well, and a lot of that's because of Lamar. Their secondary has been a lot better since adding Marcus Peters and getting a healthy Jimmy Smith, and that's allowed their defense to play like a top 10 unit, which we thought it would be before the season. Great coaching, great game planning, and just something different that nobody else can throw at you, which is the reason why the Ravens are so difficult to prepare for and to play. Now, the Ravens play a very difficult schedule down the stretch. They play the Texans, the Rams, the Niners, the Bills. I think those are all tough games that will give them a run for their money, and we'll have to see how teams adjust as they get more film on Lamar Jackson in this running attack. But overall, I mean, they're so good right now. They're playing probably the best of any team right now. But that doesn't mean they're number 1 in my top 10. So at number 3 is the Baltimore Ravens. At number 2 is the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, they lost to the Seahawks, but that's not me willing to say that they are not a top 2 team. To me, they're still the best team in the NFC. Really, they lost to a division rival who was more desperate than them by 3 points without George Kittle or Emmanuel Sanders. They didn't have either of their top 2 targets, either of Jimmy's go-to guys, and really they fall off a cliff in targets in the passing game after those 2 players. That's why Emmanuel Sanders has made such a big difference since being traded from the Broncos. The Niners, they have a dominant pass rush, still a very good defense, as they showed versus Seahawks, had one of the better performances as a defense versus Russell Wilson. It was really the turnovers and some of the wacky moments in that game that allowed the Seahawks to win. And really, the 49ers easily could have won that. They missed a field goal to win the game at the end. Jimmy, I think, has looked more composed every game that he's played. And I'm looking forward to see how he plays as we get closer to the playoffs. So at number 2, 49ers. At number 1, New England Patriots. They're back at number 1. They won the bye week. Not only did they beat the bye week straight up, but also the Kansas City Chiefs lost, which will help them. The Buffalo Bills lost as well. So the New England Patriots had a nice bye week. But more so than the bye week, they get Isaiah Wynn back. And you guys, probably people that aren't Patriots fans, will not realize how big of a deal getting Isaiah Wynn back at left tackle is. Newhouse, their current left tackle, has actually been one of the worst left tackles in the league, allowing I think he's like in the bottom 3 in pressures allowed. So just getting Isaiah Wynn back is going to help that passing game, but also the screen game and his mobility. Newhouse doesn't have that mobility. The run game in his power combined with that mobility. So to me, Isaiah Wynn is going to completely change. He is the 3rd most important player on this offense behind Brady and Julian Edelman, in my opinion. So Isaiah Wynn is a massive piece adding back to the mix this week versus the Eagles, next week versus the Cowboys. And then you have Mohamed Sanu, who looked very good versus Baltimore, is continuing to provide as a nice fit for this offense, and I think is going to have a great stretch run and playoff run. N'Keal Harry is back in the fold, hopefully playing versus the Eagles. So they're getting some players back. They're adding new pieces. This is a team that's had constant change on the offensive line at receiver, and they're still only 1 loss. I mean, Patriots, this is the time of year that they play their best football. This is the time of year that they figure it out. Belichick, bye week, looks at things that they're not doing so well, fixes them, and they go after it. And people are talking about their schedule. They haven't played anybody, whatever. But after the bye, we will see the true test. They play the Eagles in Philadelphia. They play Dallas, Houston, and Kansas City. Looking forward to those games. I think the Patriots have the potential to sweep them, if not just 1 loss. But I think the Patriots are still the best team. I'm not willing to say they are not until somebody knocks them out in the playoffs. Now, the Ravens did beat them, so there's definitely an argument for that. But I just think the Patriots, they're going to come back after this bye week, regroup, and they're going to be the best team in football going forward. This is the Patriots' time of year. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. That's my top 10 teams in the NFL right now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, Gronk, spike the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.